Hey, what's up everyone and welcome to another very exciting video. I'm Gaming Mars and today we're talking about why I don't believe we're ever getting an N64 Mini. Reason the first. Look, I know the SNES Mini was a hit, but games from the 16-bit era have aged extremely well. In fact, they still make games in that very graphic style. Now, are there any developers still making games in the style of the N64? I don't think so. As much of a classic this game is, and as much of a classic many of the games on the system are, they have not aged well. Now, I'm not saying that Conker's Bad Fur Day wouldn't be a lot of fun to revisit. It would need a bunch of quality of life improvements to be playable in this day and age. I mean, sure, you can play it on the Xbox, but you'd be playing a censored version of Conker's Bad Fur Day, and I ain't about censorship. Reason the second. Whilst this controller looks normal to me, and is in my opinion completely usable, but to someone who's never seen this before, I mean, seriously, I don't expect them to be able to use it. So let's say Nintendo comes out with an N64 Mini. Do they make a bunch of mini N64 controllers? The SNES Mini did not suffer from the poor control design. I mean, just comparing it to the SNES Mini, the controller, again, has not aged well for the N64. In fact, if you hand it to young people, they don't even know how to use it. I mean, sure, you'd have a bunch of grown people reliving their childhood, but the thing is, it also needs to be something that they can play with their children. And introducing this to a modern generation, whilst I do believe to be feasible, it's not the most accessible option, in my opinion. I feel if they do come out with an N64 Mini, they would have to address the controller situation. Personally, I think they're going to have to look at this example from Retro Brawlers and come out with something like this if they do come out with an N64 Mini. Not to mention one of the best things about the N64 was that it had 4-player multi. If you ship out an N64 Mini, does it come with 4 controllers? Or would you have to buy them? Just think about that from a manufacturing point of view. Reason the third. GoldenEye wouldn't be on this thing. GoldenEye is the third best-selling game on the Nintendo 64. The rights to GoldenEye are all over the place. It wouldn't be as simple as calling up Rareware and going, hey, can we use your game? Speaking of Rare, they were making their best games in their history during the N64 period. You'd think that would be incentive for Nintendo to keep the company. But no, Microsoft outbidded them in a bidding war. And I don't believe Rareware has made anything quite as legendary ever since. But hey, at least Microsoft and Nintendo are playing nice these days, and would probably be able to get Perfect Dark on the system. But you see, the thing for me is, I always preferred James Bond over Joanna Dark. Now, whilst this was a spiritual successor to GoldenEye, thematically it crosses into the world of sci-fi, which is something that James Bond never does. I mean, sure, they made Moonraker, but I can tolerate the laser guns in the multiplayer. The point is, I was just always more on board with the story in this game than I was in Perfect Dark. Speaking of rights being all over the place, I actually do not believe it would be possible for any of the classic wrestling games to be on this hypothetical system. Not just that, but any of these obscure third-party titles I believe would be extremely difficult to get back on the system. I'm sure we'd be able to get a Mario Tennis, Mario Golf and all that jazz, anything with Mario's face, onto an N64 Mini, but we'd be missing out on a lot of good titles. The SNES Mini had 21 games on it, so I've compiled a list of games that I believe would be 100% possible to get onto an N64 Mini. Star Wars Episode 1 is currently on the Nintendo Switch. We've got a Tony Hawk remake on the Nintendo Switch. There's a Duke Nukem. And unlikely is a sad list. Some great games are on this list. Clay Fighter, Snow Kids, all the Star Wars games. Mystical Ninja, I know, is a very important game to the Nintendo 64 retro gaming community. And it's highly unlikely that we'll get any of the sports games. There was an NBA Jam on this thing. But yeah, just looking at this list, it just makes me sad. All the great games that could potentially be on there. Out of that list, I don't think Conker's Bad Fur Day would make the cut. In my opinion, the way to sell this thing would be to sell it to people who played this when they were younger and they want to introduce it to their families. Having Conker's Bad Fur Day on such a system wouldn't be that family friendly. But hey, maybe the N64 Mini could be an adult only type of thing. Reason the fourth. And this is the big reason I don't believe we'll be getting an N64 Mini. It's Nintendo. Who knows what they're going to do next? Like, seriously, how logical would it be to release a Switch Pro at some stage? I mean, we've been calling it every year since the inception of the Nintendo Switch. But Nintendo's Nintendo. They can do whatever they bloody well please, and they aren't going to listen to no one. I mean, seriously, it's like the people running the joint are living under a rock with their hands over their head, completely ignoring everything that everyone else is doing, or ignoring everything that everyone wants. Anyways, that's just my opinion on why I don't believe we're getting an N64 Mini. Ever. Let me know if you disagree in the comment section below. Anyways, that's it for me. See ya.